You having gut issues, but you're not sure what gut disease you have, then you need to watch this video. I'm going to help you understand if you have colitis, Crohn's, leaky gut, SIBO, small intestinal fungal overgrowth, pretend there's a stomach right here, heartburn, ulcers, stomach ulcers, H. pylori, and I'm going to help you understand this through the work of Dr. Hammer. He was a brilliant doctor who could look at your brain CT scan and know exactly what gut health conditions you would have. And when I started using Dr. Hammer's work, I gained like 20 pounds in about a month or two, all while eating whatever I want. And that's after years of boring, bland diets. So, the way Dr. Hammer would work is he would have the person get a CT scan and then he would look at this slice of the brain. I guess we could say that kind of sees through the brainstem right here, and it would look kind of like that. He would look at this part of the brain right here, and he would look for a ring, and he would look for these impacts on the brainstem. Now, if somebody had a ring right there on the sigmoid relay, there would be something going on in the sigmoid part of the colon, the S-shaped part of the colon. If somebody had a ring right there, the descending or transverse colon would be affected. So the transverse or descending colon would be affected. Now, it could be colitis, ulcerative colitis, or diverticulitis. These are all just different intensities of the organ being put in and out of overdrive, versus someone having a small conflict, like, oh, my girlfriend broke up with me, I only liked her a little bit, versus like, oh my God, my girlfriend broke up with me, it's so stressful, she's dating my brother, and they put it in my face every time I go home for Christmas. The second person would probably have diverticulitis depending, especially if they handled that conflict in a bad way. We're not really sure what these rings are, but they show up on a CT scan, and the company itself verified that, these are not malfunctions of the machine, that they are actual rings that are there on the brain. And when you experience a stressful conflict, it's like getting hit with lightning. And our brain is like this electrical organ. If Dr. Hammer saw a ring there, then this part of the colon would have something going on. If somebody saw a ring there, then the ileum, the last part of the small intestine, would have something going on. So the way that a doctor, they stick a camera up your butt, and then they look for inflammation in the colon. They look for something going on. But that camera stops at right about here. They have a hard time getting it past here because the small intestine is very windy, as you can see, and much longer than this. This is not done to scale very well. So, but we could avoid a lot of this mishap if doctors would just learn how to read CT scans and learn Dr. Hammer's work. Somebody usually gets diagnosed with Crohn's disease when they identify inflammation in the last part of the small intestine. Now, Crohn's disease is a very confusing term because it doesn't make any sense, and Dr. Burrell Crohn's, the guy who discovered it, did not want to use that. But I got diagnosed when they found inflammation here on an MRI, but when they did the colonoscopy, they said things were so messed up that I probably had Crohn's and colitis. But for terms like small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, you would find rings in the brain either here or here. Or small intestinal fungal overgrowth, you'll find or SIFO, you'd find a ring here or here. If somebody had intestinal candida, they could have a ring anywhere because candida can grow on the colon or the small intestine. Now, if somebody has leaky gut, then we could find a ring on either of these relays, but there are a lot of different symptoms for leaky gut and SIBO, like skin issues, and those are actually controlled in the cerebellum right here. but we're not going to get into that. But there's this idea in the holistic community that the gut's the second brain, and that all health starts in the gut, which is just not right whatsoever. Yeah, you're going to be in bad health if you're not digesting your food, but disease does not start in the gut. Disease starts from a conflict shock that puts an organ in and out of overdrive. And the more that organ goes in and out of overdrive, the more beat up that organ is going to be. Now, if somebody had something going on in their stomach, this is controlled from a different part of the brain. It's not controlled in the brainstem, it's controlled in the newer part of the brain, the cerebral cortex. Now, if somebody had heartburn, stomach ulcers, H. pylori, they would have a ring here. GERD, acid reflux, the ring would be here. And to kind of show you where we are in the brain, that's the slice of the brain we're looking at. If somebody had hemorrhoids and anal fissures, there would be a ring here. And now this was caused by a territorial anger or an identity conflict. I don't know what territory I belong to. And if somebody had a perianal fistula or an abscess, there would be a ring on 1 or 2. And so the conflict that controls this is, what is crap? I couldn't get rid of crap fast enough. And our language is very figurative. We're always saying, oh, what a load of crap. I don't want to hear that crap. Get that crap out of here. How do you think your subconscious is going to interpret that in a stressful situation? It's going to go, oh, let me help you out. You have crap you can't get rid of? Okay, let's put the colon into overdrive and get that crap out of here. So the conflicts for the small intestine is, what is something important to my survival that I can't digest and absorb? What's the biological purpose of the small intestine? It's to digest and absorb things important to your survival. In the colon's conflict is going to be, what is crap I want to get rid of, but I can't. All gut disease is a stressful event putting your gut in and out of overdrive. Now, when I started using Dr. Hammer's work to get better, I gained like 20 pounds and I got rid of all of my food intolerances in probably about a month. And then over the course of the next year, now I weigh 200 pounds. I gained like 50 pounds altogether and I have 0 symptoms. And the thing that I struggled with, I had a hard time finding my conflicts, understanding the work in this book. It's kind of written in very technical language, which is good because it's kind of more for practitioners, but it can be very difficult for the average person to understand. And so that's why I made my 13-day protocol. It puts Dr. Hammer's work in very easy to understand details. And I also felt, Dr. Hammer's work, it didn't go into enough detail how a traumatized mind works. What's an emotion? How do you deal with these negative emotions? How do you stop your symptoms if you can't resolve the conflict? So I made a really structured step-by-step guide for how anybody could do this. I've made it super easy to understand. But I really wish doctors would start to adopt this work, because just one CT scan of the brain and looking at the CT for a couple of minutes, you could get a very clear idea for what's going on in your gut. And you wouldn't have to waste months, if you're lucky, to get a firm diagnosis. And for some people have waited years for a diagnosis. And a lot can change over the course of a couple of years. I mean, with all this advanced technology, doctors do not have excuse for how bad they can be at diagnosing things. It's a very straightforward process. They just fundamentally don't know the basics of logic, to be completely honest. But modern medicine, even though modern medicine is horrible at dealing with autoimmune diseases, modern medicine provides us with a lot of great tools, and they're also very good at urgent care when needed.